Parak Kuf Lamed Bet, the 132nd chapter of Tehillim. We continue with Shir Hama'alot. Zechor Adonai LeDavid Kol Uno To, or Unvoto, a song of ascents. God, remember in David's favor his anivut, his humility, his self-denial, as it were. What does this refer to specifically? So Rashi says, or if it's this tshuva, it's this cheshbon ha-nefesh. We'll see if that's it, or if there's some other places that maybe it's referring to, or it's just general statement about a righteous person sort of putting other things in front of them, not always about themselves and their needs. Asher nishbal Adonai nadar la'avir Yaakov. That David, he swore to God, he vowed to the mighty one, to the mighty one of Jacob, to his people. Im avo ba'ohel beiti im al eres yitzuai. I will not enter my house, nor will I go and lie down on my a bed. Okay, so David is saying that he's not going to relax. He's not going to. He's not going to do the things that you would think a king would be able to do, because there are issues. There are things that he needs as the king of Israel, as a servant of God. There are things that he needs to do. I'll not let my eyes fall asleep or slumber, right? I won't allow slumber. Until I find place for God, a place for the mighty one of Israel. So presumably, one main way of understanding this chapter is this is in reference to David's desire to build the Beit HaMikdash. David wanted to build a temple for God. And he thought that he gave, if you remember back, I think it's the 7th chapter of Shmuel Bet, initially Natan Hanavi says to him, great idea, and then comes back the next day and says, God appreciates everything that you want to do for him, but God took you from the field and made you into king of Israel, and you'll be a dynasty, but now is not the time. The temple will be built during the generation of your son. But here, David, seemingly that is what David, I will not sleep, I will not rest until I get this done. Maybe this is in advance of him talking to Natan. Maybe this is after he talks to Natan, and Natan originally not prophetically, but just as a spiritual leader who's told, I want to give you $5 million to build the temple. Of course, Natan's going to say yes, the same way presumably a rabbi would say that if you offered them $5 million to build a shul. Continuing in verse 6, Hine Shema Nuha be'Ephrata Mitzanuha b'Stei Ya'ar. We heard it was an Ephrat. We came upon it into the region of Ya'ar. So, right, we think that that's where there's a great person, or that's where the temple may end up. Where are we going to find the place for it to be? Navoa. So let us go and let's enter God's abode. Let's bow at God's footstool, right? Let's go to a place to make a temple. So come, get up, God. Go to your resting place, to you and your mighty ark. You can see this is also referencing perhaps the first time David wants to bring the ark to Jerusalem, and it doesn't work out. The ark is falling. And a man whose name I forget holds up the ark so it won't fall on the ground, the Aron, and he dies. As a result, the ark doesn't need to be held up. It's not the right time for the ark to go. And then years later, David brings the ark back to Jerusalem. Continuing verse 9, Kohanecha yilbeshu tzedek v'chasidecha yiranenu. Your priests are clothed in triumph. Your loyal ones sing for joy, right? Like God, you look everything around you, everybody is singing, everybody is ready for you, everybody's wearing their special clothing, so you can find your holy place or your ark, you can find your home, whatever that means on this earth. And interestingly, and this is an important thing about Jewish life, it's not the king who is the priest. The king does not serve in the temple. David might build the temple, but David is not Pharaoh. David's not a god. David's not closer. David was not selected to be the kings by God like the royal family in England believed or believes. I don't know. It's a Kohanecha Yilbashut set of Chasidechi Ranenu. I may be in charge of the building project, which he ultimately is not. It's his son, but I am not going to be the person who is serving in the temple. Ba'avura David Avdecha al tashev pnei mishichecha. For the sake of your servant David, do not reject your anointed one. So presumably the way that this sort of is understood is this sort of second half of this chapter, beginning with really verse 6 or verse 7 is maybe after the life of David, that it's Shlomo. There's all sorts of midrashim that at the time that Shlomo wanted to build the Beit HaMikdash, there were these sort of there was water coming out, or all sorts of different midrashim that something physical, natural, something from God was preventing it from happening. And so that's the way that this verse is generally understood. And the section that this is sort of a secondary second half of it, where now Shlomo is building it and saying, look what he wanted to do. Now don't go away from the oath that you swore to David. Nishba Adonai leDavid emet lo yashub mimenu mipri betnecha ashit likisei lach. In verse 11, God swore to David an oath that says, one of your children will set upon your throne. If your sons keep the covenant, if they keep my mitzvot, if they follow what I want to do, then they will have a dynasty that is eternal, one that will sit upon the throne. Because God has chosen Zion. He has, as we pointed out many times, Zionism, not something new in the world of the Jews. We got it over and over again here in the book of Tehillim. Zot menuchati adeyad, poeshev ki ivitiha. This is my resting place, God says, for all time. Here I will dwell. Seda barech avarech evyoneha aspia, lachem. I will. This is the place where I'm going to offer blessings, and it's doubly blessings. Varech avarech. It's double language. I will give bread to the needy, to the evyon. This is a place where people are going to prosper. This is a place where the poor are going to also be given. It's not just going to be the wealthy. V'choanecha al bishyesha v'chasidecha ranein yiranenu. In response to the verse earlier, kohanecha yovashut tzedek v'chasidecha yiranenu. What do we say? God says, yes, you're correct. I will clothe the priests in victory. The loyal ones, the chasidim, the devout ones will sing songs. And in verse 17, Pasuk Yud Zayin, Sham atzmiach keren leDavid, arachti ner lemishichai. There I will make the horn sprout for David. The horn, the keren, is the sign of royalty, right? The horn from which oil was poured over the head of David and over the head of Shlomo and over the head of Aaron, over the Kelim of the Beit HaMikdash. I prepared a lamp, a light for my anointed one, for David. His temple will be built. I will have my home there. It will be something that's forever. The Kohanim will serve there. The Chasidim will be able to be joyous due to the godliness, the morality, the vision that they have, the role that will be there. And in the center of it, even though not serving as a temple, will be David and David's dynasty. And to end it, those who are not part of the project, Oivav albish boshet, va'alav yatzitz nizro. I will clothe David's enemies in disgrace, while on him and on his descendants, really, his crown will sparkle. It will be something that is shining. And so in this is a one, again, we've said that the Shir HaMa'alot, not climbing up the ladder, or the pilgrims going up to the temple. There's not one theme. There are a lot of different themes. They touch upon many, many different things. And this one about the building of the temple, David's desire to build the temple. I won't sleep until the temple is built. And then sort of a continuation during the lifetime of Shlomo, looking for the materials, looking for the place, looking for how exactly it's supposed to be done, asking God to support him in this process because of this oath back in Shmuel Bet, Parak Zion, I believe, that God made to David. You cannot build the temple, but your son will, and God affirms it. The Kohanim will be the ones who will albish tzedek. They will be the ones to serve in the temple with the clothing. Everybody will come. It will be a place of joy and a place of happiness, and it will be built by King David. The monarchy the religion, the institutions of state and religion are closely linked. David, you're not going to be in charge of both of them. Your descendants are not going to be in charge of both of them. At times, during the, according to many, is it the king? I can't forget. I can't forget. I forget his name. There's a king who becomes a leper, and he goes into hiding. And the understanding is he was one of the descendants of David. I don't know how, I can't remember his name right now. Is that he tried to serve in the Beit HaMikdash, and because of that, he got leprosy, and he had to go into hiding. A king cannot be both, but God's promise to David, his promise that his sons will remain those to build the temple and to sort of be in charge of the Jewish people, is going to go hand in hand. And so we see here a chapter that goes back to the time of David, goes back to the time of Shlomo, and envisions a time for all times that God is in his temple together with the Jewish people, and therefore we should be rejoicing as a result on the eve of Sukkot, one of the 3 times that we are obligated by the Torah to go to the Beit HaMikdash, Aliyah L'Regel. It's a perfect chapter as we head into that holiday.